Motion, have you looked at the minutes?
Oh, I see, approved minutes. Yeah,
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
and I'll second. We got this.
Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah, we're good.
I'm first.
any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Now we'll go to the public hearing.
That would be me. That would be you.
If you want,
Okay.
you were invited.
Yeah.
Step up to the microphone, please.
Identify yourself.
I'm Grant Adams, I have property in Creechville. So that's on the agenda tonight, am I?
Yep.
Right, okay. From what I understand, that the zoning doesn't, right now, doesn't make sense for that strip along the old Gunflint. It should be residential, so if we're in the process of correcting that, thank you for doing that.
Okay.
You're
Because-
welcome.
Because my dad bought that property back in the 1960s. I know that he, in good faith, believed that it was residential. So I'm not sure where this recreational thing came from.
Well, the zoning ordinance was adopted in 1971, so
Okay, interesting.
Yep.
Yeah,
good on them.
so I'm definitely in favor of the correction, if I'm understanding this correctly.
Yeah.
And thank you for initiating that,
Yep.
and a chance to speak and everything.
All that.
Mike, has there been any objections at all?
No,
Okay,
and we sent out, you saw the letter we sent out. We specifically mailed this to the affected landowners, and then we also published notice of the actual hearing for anybody to see.
Yep.
And how many affected landowners do you have?
6? 6.
I made phone calls, and so the people that are just adjacent to this area
Yeah.
were not informed. And it does affect at least one of them. So in my research, is it my turn to talk?
You go.
So since we thought we were going to do this, and I understood, I thought it was a good idea to look at this. In the research that I've done since then, I don't think it was a mistake that it is an RC zone. And I say that because we have people who are operating, using their parcels there for logging trucks or trucking. And that is their use of their property. They can intend to continue to use that property there for that. The house, or there's a lot above, and I wasn't able to get a hold of Mr. Mattingly. I didn't know who he was, so I wasn't able to call him. I drove by there, and he's got, looks like a sailboat or other boats stored there. So my concern, if we do change this to an R1 district, is that what some of the property owners are currently using their property for will no longer be allowed under the R1 zone.
This is a good question, one I was hoping to get from some of these property owners, so I'm glad you reached out to them. And then they can watch this video if they have any questions about that. So what's allowed in the RC zone, first of all, I think, so that we know that much. Public and private parks, playgrounds, and recreation areas. That's it. Anything else is a conditional use. Logging is not a conditional use allowed in the RC zone. So right now, that's a non-conforming use. It's a legal non-conforming use. So they can continue to do it. When we change from RC to R1, it will continue to be a legal non-conforming use to do the activities that they were doing before. So as long as it was legal when it was RC,
Yep.
it'll still be legal when it's R1, non-conforming, however.
Yeah.
The only, there isn't anybody in here that has a use that's legally conforming to the RC zone. So when we change to R1,
Why R1 makes
most
more
of them
sense.
will suddenly become legally conforming. A few of them will continue to be non-conforming, but legal. So if
Okay,
you're operating a
that's what-
commercial type activity, and you've been doing that there since before 1971, then it's perfectly legal for you to continue to do that,
Okay,
even though it's not conforming.
that's what I just want to
Yep.
be clear about, and that the worry is that, okay, it's a legal non-conforming use. I don't want all of a sudden, 5 years down the road, the neighbors say, well, wait a minute, we don't like logging trucks going by our house anymore, so we want to put a stop to that.
Well, we don't have any
Well,
control over that,
yeah, I
and
mean-
they have a right to say
So what's the
so.
process then?
Well, they
For
can do
them.
that. They can bring that complaint.
That's not
They
the
can-
only place they do that. If you go down Fifth Avenue, there's a lot of junk laying in that house there. Then right next to my old building is a junkyard. But I don't know how we handle that.
Yeah, that's what I'm just
In my
asking
opinion,
questions.
the use of it for a commercial logging activity is less conforming with the RC zone than it is with the R1. Because
Right.
the RC zone
Okay.
is really supposed to be for parks.
Yeah.
Now, it's just not going to be conforming with any zone up there ever, because that piece of property is not going to be zoned commercial. When they started that activity, it was a different neighborhood. 5 years from now, it might be different again. And we can't really prevent or control the neighborhood from wanting to take any actions about that. But legally,
they
they
would-
have a right to continue their activity.
Okay, and they
Yeah.
don't need to go
As long as it
get
was
a
legal.
conditional use permit to do that.
They can't. There is no
Okay.
conditional use that would allow it.
Yeah.
So if they wanted to expand their activity, they can't do that. But they couldn't anyway.
Okay.
They couldn't have expanded it with existing zoning because it's not conforming.
Right.
So there's nothing that changes about their situation, but there's no protection that they're being granted by us either doing this or not doing this
Okay.
either.
Yeah.
Well, we need a motion. Do we do that today?
You can. We have some questions about this one though, that you have to make some findings on,
Okay.
as per all of them.
Well, in that case, I will make a motion to rezone RC to R1 in Creechville.
I'll second it.
Second? Are you okay with that, Stacy? You got a good
Yeah.
question, because it is a problem in the town. But it's a very difficult thing to come and tell somebody to take something off their driveway. And so it's something that someday probably we'll have to have an ordinance to correct it.
So
Because
that's what I
it is
meant. What is our intention? Why are we doing this? What is we're doing it, if we left it
Well-
alone and just left it, nothing would change. What,
If we left it alone, most of those properties which are being residentially used, anytime they wanted to come get a permit from us, we'd have to go through some extra steps because what they're doing is not legally conforming. So, and this was brought to our attention when the vacant lot tried to
Okay.
develop residentially. So I think what we're doing this for is recognizing that for the most part, this is a residential neighborhood, and we want the zoning to underlie that so that people have the easy ability to use their property residentially.
Because that's what they're primarily doing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And then for those people that are doing something different, this doesn't change their situation.
Yeah, they can keep doing their non-conforming things, and the other people can be moved into a category that makes sense for them.
okay,
I have a little bit of history on this. As you remember, Mike, when the sewer and water issue came up, that they all claimed that they didn't have enough money to do it, and I went to the triple RV and got the money for them, and they wouldn't come. I made them come in and sign an affidavit that they couldn't afford it. Well, 3 of them wouldn't do it, so I said, okay, then we're not going to do your sewer, because the IRRB wants to know that you cannot afford it, and you have to have an affidavit. So they all came to the second meeting and said, go ahead. So we did them a big favor. It was a very costly, and it didn't cost them a dime, I don't think.
It was probably 15 years ago that we talked about putting sewer
Yes.
in on that chunk of Fifth Avenue, and clearly at that time, the city's position was it's appropriate to develop these properties residentially. We want to see that happen because we're actually investing in that to happen.
Well, nobody apparently is against it or opposing it, and that gentleman is not, right?
Correct.
So I will call for a vote. There's been a motion by me and seconded. And if there's any further discussion, if not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
fine.
Okay? Good.
Okay.
So this is an ordinance, which means the city council will have to do two
Right.
readings on it. It'll be at their next meeting. I don't suspect there'll be any more than just kind of a rehash of this issue, because I feel like this is the one that needs to be clarified for folks, but otherwise, it's a good thing, like he says.
Okay, old business. What is on that?
So I just want a little bit of feedback from you on this. Mainly, the discussion about housing and kind of taking a holistic look at, well, what's our situation and what are our regulations doing and what can we do regulation-wise to improve our housing situation in the community. And it becomes a very large project. And one option is for us to just take the whole project and farm it out. And we could take this type of a scope of work that's in your packet and do an RFP and ask for firms to prepare this information. So the first bit of feedback I want is, do you think that we've got kind of covered here what we need? And then the second bit of feedback is, the project management wise, that'd be the fastest and most efficient way and significantly most expensive way to do it. There's a continuum, I'd say, of farming the whole thing out to attempting to do some of the parts in-house and hiring some of the parts out to attempting to do the whole thing in-house. I think we've got the expertise to do the whole thing in-house, but I just don't think we've got the time to do it very quickly. So where are you at in terms of, I want to spend money on this versus I want it done quickly? That's those two questions.
When you say quickly, what's that time horizon? What does it look like?
I think that if we hired this out, that we could expect a company to do the data collection, prepare the maps, probably in 6 weeks, and then maybe another 6 weeks to go through kind of a workshop brainstorming session, and so, 3 months.
Okay.
And if we're doing it all by
Yeah,
ourselves,
if you guys are doing it.
I really don't know. 18 months?
Okay, so way out there.
Yeah.
Well, 18 months seems way too far out there, in my opinion. It just seems like we keep having things come up fairly regularly about, like, oh, this lot, what are we going to do? Oh, well, we do want more housing, so, and we seem to have those issues come up again and again. So I feel like 18 months is too long, too far out there, personally. Again, what's our dollars look like?
That you won't have to allocate out of a budget or anything like
Right.
that. The city council will have to decide that.
They'll be doing that, but I'm
And,
curious.
I don't really know.
Okay.
I don't think you hire somebody to do a project like this that doesn't cost $30,000 to $50,000.
Right.
So, if we do it in-house, it probably costs $5,000. So that's the difference.
Right,
Now, that's money well spent if it's important enough.
yeah.
And
I'm wondering about the housing inventory and maps. What kind of data do we already have?
well, what do we have right now?
Yeah.
We have utility billing data. The county has property tax data, including classification. But is that organized in a usable manner? Not really. So there would need to be some work done on that data to turn it into something that could be understandable. I think putting it all on maps is the way to go. That, we might want a list. We might want some statistics.
Yeah.
60% of our houses are residentially used on a regular basis. Something like that might be useful to know. But a map of, here's the ones that are seasonal and here's the ones that aren't, I think it's better because there's just so much more information.
Yep. That would be great.
Particularly if one of the things we're going to look at is changing zoning maps. So we might want to look at density rules, for instance, but we decide that there's some places where we want them to change and others where we don't. And then having a map that we can
Yeah.
look at density and we can look at uses will help us determine that.
Yeah. That would be very cool.
What's the timing on this, that the county's gonna finally adopt the ordinance?
That the end goal of this scope of work does not create an ordinance. So what we've done here is create a list of ordinance or other regulatory issues that we want to tackle.
Right.
So if we hire somebody to do this for us, they're going to help us prioritize, here's 10 things you can do to your ordinance to affect the housing situation. And then we can just chip those off as we want. And I would say, it totally depends on what that issue looks like. If the issue is we want to change our lot size from 75 by 120 to 50 by 100, we probably want to spend some time talking to the public about that. But the actual process of doing that is 6 to 8 weeks. If we want to talk about changing our rules from allowing one structure on a 10,000 square foot lot to allowing 3 structures on a 10,000 square foot lot, we definitely want to talk to the public a lot about that. We probably spend 3 to 4 months on an issue that big,
Yeah.
making a change.
Stacy, if my memory serves me right, you, at the meeting, we talked about this before, that you were in favor of adopting the same amendment that the counties are proposing. Is that right? I thought you'd said that.
Oh, that was about the vacation rental
Yeah.
ordinance. But this, I see, is different than that. Yeah, I think, we need to have this information to move forward.
Right.
Right. I mean, we need the
Now,
data.
do we have $50,000 to do that? I don't know, and I'm trying to think in my head, are there other, what else can we do to, because, we need this, we need to know this stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe it's not 50. Maybe it's 18. I don't know. We find that out by asking. So there's probably no harm in asking for proposals. But if
Yeah.
the appetite is more about speed and efficiency and just finally getting this done than it is about careful and cost effective and that side of it, then we'll just, lump sum the whole thing. How quickly can you do it? If we don't mind it taking a little bit longer and we're looking for ways to save money in exchange for that, then we might draw this up where we want a price for, more a la carte sort of thing.
That's what I'm thinking, and you say you have the ability to do it in-house, but not the time. Well, maybe hiring somebody part-time, temporary, would be a way.
I
'Cause
think that would be part of our strategy.
Usually going out to get a company to do it, that's really expensive, but yes, I agree, something needs to be done, we have to do this.
Yeah.
What's the best way to do it? I'm not sure yet, so I would ask for more information.
I mean, I'm
Different
intrigued by the
proposals.
idea of picking off some of these things ourselves as a way to try and save money. I know that we can handle the second half of it ourselves quite simply.
Right.
Right.
So the gathering the data and looking at the maps and everything else. I've had just some real beginning conversations with some folks that do this, but we could try to gather some more information along those lines and maybe try to get a budget quote or two and come back with that information for you and a draft RFP, something to look at your next meeting. The other thing that's going to happen between now and March is the city council is going to be getting together to talk about strategic planning.
Mhm.
And I expect that this issue is in that conversation
Yep.
pretty heavily. And whether or not it is something that they prioritize towards the top of the list or not answers the question, are they looking to spend tens of thousands to get this done because they think it's that important, or would they rather we wait
Yeah.
and pick it off as we can?
Yeah, I would think that housing would be way up their list, but we'll see.
And there's a lot of clues that would indicate that. We've certainly talked about it
Yeah.
enough, but we don't let the process happen too,
Yeah.
and see what they end up with the priorities.
Yeah, I think putting it out there and, saying like, yeah, we would like to see this happen. just get some feedback as to price and that kind of thing. I mean, yeah, I think it makes sense that doing some of this in-house makes sense to have our hands on it, but sometimes they're experts that can make it happen faster,
Right?
nicer.
So what do you want to do?
I want to ask the city council to,
Prioritize
yeah,
this?
prioritize this. This is important. We need this information.
Yeah.
They can decide
Yeah, and
Okay.
then they can
how much money we can
come
spend.
back, say what they think is appropriate. Because they've got the whole thing, we're just looking at this one piece, so.
Yeah.
But I would think that housing's gotta be up the list,
Okay, that's what we'll do.
yeah. Great.
So do we need any
Can we
motion?
take an
that?
action on that? No.
No.
Well, you don't need to, no.
Yeah, okay.
If there is any more feedback on the actual scope, like, hey, I'd also like to know about this, and it occurs to you in the next couple of weeks,
Okay,
just drop me an email.
okay. Great, yeah. Sweet.
So what's on the new business then?
No, nothing new for you all, except you do have a job to do. You need to find a fifth person.
It's true.
So we have a vacancy to fill Todd's spot.
Yes.
Has anybody applied for it?
No. For the planning commission, other than just a general positive sunny disposition and a willingness to dig in, you have to live in the city. That's it.
Yeah.
Live in the city, want to help, you're in.
Well, we'll find somebody, I'm sure.
So
I think we're there.
what else is left here?
Nothing.
I think we're
You've done
ready.
That
it.
sounds good.
Good
See
job,
what
Hal.
happens when two people
You
are-
run a good meeting.
Well, sometimes they say I'm too quick with stuff, but
You're efficient, you're very
but
efficient.
I'm used to doing this all for so many years. and,
Yeah.
You know, I ran a company that had 10,000 employees, and that wasn't easy. I had to travel all over the world and the country. And it was called Green Tree Financial. I founded it